respected. If I could sit beside my younger self for just one conversation, I wouldn't hand him money, I wouldn't give him success, and I wouldn't tell him the winning lottery numbers. I would simply whisper the lessons that pain had to teach me the hard way. Because the truth is, there are things you only understand after you've cried enough tears, trusted the wrong people, lost the opportunities you thought would last forever, and watched time quietly walk away. If you stay with me for these next few minutes, one lesson might save you years of regret. There comes a moment in every person's life when they stop blaming the world and begin asking themselves a different question. Not, why did this happen to me? But what was life trying to teach me? That single question changes everything. Most people spend years chasing happiness without realizing they are running in the wrong direction. They believe happiness lives in money, in fame, in approval, in expensive cars, beautiful houses, or the applause of strangers. Then one day they finally reach what they spent years chasing, only to discover that success without peace is just another form of exhaustion. I wish someone had told me that when I was younger. When you're young, you think life is long. You believe there will always be another chance to apologize, another chance to love, another chance to follow your dream, another chance to call your parents, another chance to become the person you promised yourself you would become. But life has a way of reminding us that tomorrow is a promise it never actually made. Time is the one thing every billionaire and every poor man receive equally, 24 hours. No one gets 25. No one can buy an extra minute once it's gone. Yet somehow, we spend our youth acting like time is unlimited, while spending our money as though it's precious. Later in life, we realize it should have been the opposite. Money comes back. Time never does. I remember hearing a story about a man who worked every single day believing he was sacrificing for his family. He left before sunrise. He came home after dark. Every birthday was another promise that he'd make it up next year. Every vacation became another canceled plan. He kept saying, one more promotion, one more year, one more deal. Years passed. His children stopped asking him to play because they learned he would always be busy. His wife stopped waiting up because disappointment had become routine. Then one day, after decades of chasing success, he finally retired. He imagined family dinners, laughter, long conversations, and making memories. But life had already moved on. His children had their own families. His marriage had become strangers, sharing memories instead of creating them. The success he had fought so hard to achieve couldn't buy back the moments he had traded away. That's one of the cruelest lessons life teaches. You can always earn another dollar. You cannot relive one lost afternoon with the people you love. I wish I had understood that sooner. When I was younger, I thought proving myself to everyone was important. I wanted people to notice me. I wanted approval. I wanted validation. Every compliment felt like oxygen. Every criticism felt like an attack. Then life taught me something powerful. People are busy living their own lives. The opinions you lose sleep over usually disappear from their minds within hours. Meanwhile, you've allowed their temporary thoughts to become permanent limits. Think about that. How many dreams have died because someone laughed? How many businesses were never started because someone said it wouldn't work? How many songs were never sung because someone was afraid of sounding imperfect? Fear has stolen more dreams than failure ever could. Failure teaches. Fear only delays. One of the greatest lies we believe is that confidence comes before action. It doesn't. Confidence comes after action. The baby doesn't wait until it's confident before taking its first step. It falls. It cries. It gets back up. It falls again. Nobody mocks the baby for failing because everyone understands that's how walking is learned. Yet somehow, adults expect themselves to be experts before they even begin. Isn't that strange? We give children permission to grow, but we deny ourselves the same grace. Another lesson I wish I had learned earlier is that pain is never your enemy. Pain is a teacher. The heartbreak teaches you what kind of love you deserve. The failure teaches you where you need to grow. The rejection teaches you that your value isn't determined by one person's opinion. The struggle teaches you strength that comfort never could. Every scar carries a lesson. The problem is that while we're living through pain, we keep asking, why me? Years later, we look back and whisper, now I understand. Life has a remarkable way of connecting the dots backwards, not forwards. That's why faith matters. You won't always understand today's struggle while you're standing in it. Sometimes understanding arrives years after the storm has passed. I once met an older gentleman who smiled more than anyone I'd ever known. His face carried wrinkles that looked like maps of battles survived. I asked him what his secret was. He laughed softly. He said, "Son, I finally realized life wasn't happening to me. Life was preparing me." Those words stayed with me. Preparing me. Every setback, every disappointment, every closed door, every sleepless night, every moment I thought I'd never recover. Preparation. What if the thing you're crying over today is actually making you ready for the blessing you've garnered it to receive tomorrow? Most people quit before the lesson becomes clear. They stop climbing just before reaching the mountain's peak. They abandon the dream moments before the breakthrough. Not because they aren't capable, because they mistake temporary pain for permanent defeat. Listen carefully. Your current situation is not your final destination. It is a chapter, not the whole story. The greatest mistake young people make is believing they have to have everything figured out immediately. They compare their beginning to someone else's middle. They scroll through pictures of success without seeing the years of sacrifice hidden behind the camera. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to steal your joy. Someone will always have more money. Someone will always have a bigger house. Someone will always have more followers. But no one can become the person you were uniquely created to become. That assignment belongs only to you. The moment you stop competing with everyone else and start competing with yesterday's version of yourself, your entire life begins to change. Progress becomes more important than perfection. Growth becomes more important than applause. Purpose becomes more important than popularity. And that's the moment your real journey begins. The older I become, the more I realize that life doesn't change because one big miracle suddenly appears. It changes because of the small decisions you make every single day when nobody is watching. That's something I wish I had learned when I was younger. When we're young, we're fascinated by overnight success. We see the athlete holding the trophy, the entrepreneur standing beside a luxury car, the artist performing in front of thousands, and we think the story began there. We rarely see the mornings they wanted to quit. We don't see the lonely nights when nobody believed in them. We don't see the failures that taught them discipline or the sacrifices that built their character. Success always has a backstage that the audience never gets to see. There was a young man who dreamed of becoming a pilot. Every person around him told him it was impossible. His family didn't have money. He lived in a neighborhood where dreams were considered dangerous because they made people dissatisfied with ordinary life. Still, every evening, he would climb onto the roof of his small home just to watch airplanes disappear into the clouds. He imagined himself sitting in the cockpit, looking down at the world that once seemed too big to conquer. Years passed. He failed entrance exams. He worked jobs he didn't enjoy. He faced rejection after rejection. Each disappointment whispered the same message: give up. But he made one decision that changed everything. He refused to let temporary failure become a permanent identity. Eventually, after years of persistence, he earned the opportunity he had prayed for. One day, while flying above the clouds, he remembered the rooftop where his dream first began. The clouds hadn't changed. His perspective had. That's how life works. The mountain isn't always smaller. You simply become stronger. I wish someone had explained that strength isn't something you're born with. It's something life builds inside you. Gold becomes valuable only after enduring intense heat. Diamonds become brilliant because they survive unimaginable pressure. Steel becomes stronger through fire. So why do we expect our own lives to become extraordinary without any pressure at all? Every difficult season is shaping something inside you that comfort never could. Some people ask, why is life so hard? A better question is, what is this hardship preparing me to handle? Because every challenge carries a hidden gift. The loss teaches gratitude. The loneliness teaches self-respect. The betrayal teaches wisdom. The delay teaches patience. Nothing is wasted unless you refuse to learn from it. One of the biggest regrets people carry into old age is not the mistakes they made. It's the chances they never took. Years from now, very few people will remember your embarrassing moments. They won't remember the speech you stumbled through. They won't remember the business idea that failed. They won't remember the interview where you weren't chosen. But you'll remember the dreams you abandoned because you were afraid. Fear creates prisons with invisible walls. The saddest part is that the door was never locked. You were simply convinced it was. I once heard about a woman who kept an old notebook in her bedside drawer. Inside that notebook were dozens of ideas she wanted to pursue. A bakery, a charity, a book, a community center. Every page began with excitement. Every page ended with the same sentence. Maybe next year. Next year became 10 years. 10 years became 20. One afternoon, her granddaughter found the notebook and asked, "Grandma, which one did you choose?" The room became silent. She smiled through tears and quietly replied, "None of them." That answer carries more weight than most people realize. Regret doesn't usually arrive with loud footsteps. It whispers. It waits until the house is quiet. Then it asks the hardest questions. What if you had tried? What if you had believed? What if you had started? The pain of discipline lasts for a moment. The pain of regret can last a lifetime. I wish I had understood that when I believed I needed perfect timing before taking action. There is no perfect time. There is only now. The people who accomplish remarkable things aren't fearless. They simply decide that their purpose is bigger than their fear. That's courage, not the absence of fear, the decision to move anyway. Another lesson life teaches too late is the importance of protecting your peace. When I was younger, I thought winning every argument meant I was strong. Now I understand that walking away from unnecessary conflict often requires greater strength. Not every opinion deserves your response. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Not every battle deserves your energy. Energy is one of your greatest resources. Spend it wisely. Imagine carrying a backpack every day. Every grudge is another stone. Every resentment is another brick. Every argument you refuse to release becomes extra weight. Then one day you wonder why you're so exhausted. It's because you've been carrying things that were never meant to travel with you. Forgiveness doesn't always free the other person. Sometimes it finally frees you. That doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means refusing to let yesterday continue stealing today. One evening I watched an elderly couple sitting together on a park bench. They weren't talking. They weren't looking at their phones. They simply sat together, watching the sunset. There was something beautiful about that silence. After a while, the husband reached over and gently held his wife's hand. No words, no grand performance, just a simple reminder that after decades together, love had become less about excitement and more about presence. That's another lesson I wish I had learned earlier. The greatest gifts in life often appear ordinary while you're living them. Family dinner, a conversation with your parents, a walk with your child, a laugh with an old friend, a quiet evening with someone you love. One day, these ordinary moments become priceless memories. Don't wait until they're gone to recognize their value. Life rarely announces the last time, the last hug, the last conversation, the last road trip, the last meal around the same table. If you knew something was happening for the final time, you'd pay closer attention. The truth is, you never know. That's why today matters so much. Not yesterday, not someday, today. Because the life you're waiting to enjoy is quietly becoming the life you'll one day wish you could relive. And perhaps the greatest wisdom of all is this: your future isn't built by what you intend to do. It's built by what you choose to do after this moment. Every sunrise gives you another opportunity to become the person you've always admired. Every decision writes another sentence in the story of your life. The pen has never left your hand. The next chapter is waiting. The only question is whether you'll be brave enough to write it. If I could gather every young person in one room, I wouldn't begin by talking about money, success, or fame. I would begin by talking about character. Because life has taught me something that no classroom ever could. Your talent might open a door, but your character decides whether you stay inside. When you're young, it's easy to believe that intelligence is everything. You chase knowledge, degrees, skills, and accomplishments. Those things matter. They absolutely do. But there is something even more valuable than what you know. It's who you become while learning. I've met people with incredible talent who destroyed their own future because they couldn't control their pride. I've met people with average ability who changed thousands of lives because they remained humble, kind, and willing to grow. Character has a way of taking ordinary people and allowing them to accomplish extraordinary things. Life doesn't just test your abilities. It tests your heart. There was once a young carpenter who dreamed of building beautiful homes. His mentor gave him a simple task: build one small house. The young man rushed through it. He used cheaper materials where no one would notice. He skipped details that seemed unimportant. He told himself, nobody will ever see these parts. Weeks later, he proudly handed the keys to his mentor. The older man smiled, placed the keys back into the young carpenter's hand, and quietly said, "This house is yours." In that instant, everything changed. The young man realized he had been building his own future with shortcuts. That's exactly how life works. Every habit you create, every promise you keep, every excuse you make, you're not just building a career, you're building yourself. And one day, you'll have to live inside the person you've become. That's why integrity matters. Doing the right thing when no one is watching is never wasted. The world may not applaud it, social media may never celebrate it, but your future will thank you for it. One lesson I learned far too late is that the people around you quietly shape the person you has become. You don't have to become like everyone you spend time with, but eventually you'll begin thinking like them, talking like them, dreaming like them, or limiting yourself like them. Imagine placing a single piece of charcoal beside a burning fire. It eventually begins to glow. Now remove one burning coal from the fire and place it by itself. Slowly, it loses its heat. That's the power of your environment. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, doubt begins to sound like wisdom. If you're surrounded by people who complain every day, gratitude starts feeling unusual. But if you spend time with people who believe in growth, discipline, and hope, something incredible begins to happen. Their mindset becomes contagious. Protect your circle, not because you're better than anyone, but because your future deserves the right influence. Another lesson I wish someone had explained is that not everyone who walks into your life is meant to stay. Some people are lessons disguised as relationships. Some people arrive to encourage you, others arrive to challenge you, and a few simply reveal what you should never accept again. When someone walks away from your life, don't always chase them. Sometimes closed doors are acts of protection. Sometimes unanswered prayers become your greatest blessings. I know that's difficult to believe when your heart is broken. Heartbreak has a way of convincing you that life will never feel beautiful again. But the truth is, broken hearts don't stay broken forever. They heal, not overnight, not without scars, but they heal. One day you'll laugh again, you'll trust again, you'll dream again, and you'll realize the ending you feared was actually the beginning you needed. That's the remarkable thing about human beings. We are far stronger than we imagine. We survive storms we once believed would destroy us. Think about everything you've already overcome. The nights you thought you'd never stop crying. The disappointments that stole your confidence. The moments you questioned your own worth. Yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still searching for something better. That alone is proof that there is strength inside you haven't fully discovered. I wish I had learned earlier that gratitude changes more than your mood. It changes your vision. Two people can stand in the exact same place and see completely different worlds. One sees only what is missing. The other sees everything that remains. One complains about the rain. The other notices the flowers growing because of it. The circumstances are identical. The perspective is different. Your outlook shapes your experience far more than your situation does. Every morning you have two choices. You can begin the day asking, "What do I have to do?" Or you can ask, "What do I get to do?" Those two questions create two completely different lives. The first feels like a burden. The second feels like a gift. I also wish I had understood that your words carry tremendous power. The conversations you have with yourself matter more than the conversations you have with anyone else. If every morning you tell yourself you're not good enough, eventually you'll believe it. If every setback becomes proof that you're a failure, you'll stop trying. But if you choose to speak hope instead of defeat, possibility instead of limitation, growth instead of fear, your mind begins searching for reasons to prove those words true. The greatest battle you'll ever fight isn't against another person. It's against the voice inside your own head. Win that battle, and you'll discover a confidence the world cannot take away. Because confidence built on character doesn't disappear when applause fades. It remains steady through victories and failures alike. As the years pass, you'll realize something extraordinary. The people you admire most aren't remembered because they lived easy lives. They're remembered because they chose courage when fear would have been easier. They chose kindness when bitterness seemed justified. They chose perseverance when quitting appeared reasonable. Those choices became their legacy. And your legacy is being written right now, not someday, not after you become successful. Today, with every decision you make, with every person you encourage, with every promise you keep, with every moment you refuse to surrender the person you're becoming. One day, someone younger will look at your life searching for hope. Make sure they find it. Make sure your story reminds them that ordinary people can overcome extraordinary challenges because they can, and so can you. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want you to imagine something. Picture yourself many years from now. Your hair has turned gray. Your face carries the lines of every smile, every struggle, every lesson life has ever given you. You are sitting quietly, looking back over the story of your life. What do you want to feel? Do you want to remember a life controlled by fear? A life where you waited for permission? A life where you kept saying, maybe tomorrow? Or do you want to smile because you dared to live? Because you loved with your whole heart? Because you forgave when it was difficult? Because you stood back up every single time life knocked you down? Because you refused to let your circumstances decide your future? Here's the truth I wish someone had placed in my heart when I was younger. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be the richest. You don't have to be the most talented. You simply have to keep moving. One step, one decision, one act of courage at a time. Never underestimate what consistent effort can do. A river doesn't carve through rock because it's the strongest. It carves through rock because it never stops flowing. Be like that river. Keep going when no one is applauding. Keep believing when the results haven't appeared yet. Keep learning when success seems slow. Keep praying when answers feel delayed. Keep loving even after disappointment. Keep giving even when nobody notices. Because every day you choose faith over fear, discipline over excuses, and purpose over comfort. You're becoming someone your younger self would be incredibly proud of. Remember this: life will never be perfect. There will be unexpected storms. People will misunderstand you. Some dreams will take longer than you hoped. Some doors will close without explanation. Some chapters will end before you're ready. But none of those moments have the power to define you unless you allow them to. Your past is a lesson, not a life sentence. Your failures are events. They are not your identity. Your mistakes are chapters. They are not the entire book. The best pages of your story may still be unwritten. So don't let one bad season convince you that your life is over. Winter has never stopped spring from coming. Night has never prevented the sunrise. And your current struggle cannot stop the future that is waiting for the person who refuses to be quit. Before we part ways, I want to leave you with one final thought. One day, someone you may never meet will benefit from a decision you make today. Your courage will inspire another person to be brave. Your kindness will restore someone else's hope. Your perseverance will remind someone that giving up is not the answer. Your life has a ripple effect far beyond what you can see. That means every choice matters. Every word matters. Every moment matters. So stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop believing you're too late. Stop comparing your journey to someone else's. The clock isn't your enemy. Your past isn't your prison. Your circumstances aren't your ceiling. This moment, right now, is the beginning of a brand new chapter. Write it with courage. Write it with integrity. Write it with gratitude. Write it with faith. And when life becomes difficult, as it inevitably will, remember this simple truth. You have survived every challenge that brought you to this moment. You have overcome every obstacle that once convinced you it was impossible. There is more strength inside you than you've ever given yourself credit for. Stand up. Take that first step. Make that phone call. Start that dream. Forgive that person. Believe again. And never, ever allow the voice of fear to become louder than the voice of possibility. Years from now, I hope you don't look back wishing you had started sooner. I hope you look back with peace, knowing that you gave life everything you had. Because in the end, the greatest success isn't measured by the money you earned, the titles you held, or the applause you received. It's measured by the lives you touched, the character you built, the love you shared, and the courage you showed when no one else believed in you. So walk into tomorrow with your head held high. Carry your scars with honor, because they prove you survived. Carry your dreams with confidence, because they remind you that your story is still being written. And above all, never forget this: the person you become is far more important than the things you possess. Your greatest years are not necessarily behind you. They may be waiting for the decision you make today. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If this message reached your heart, don't let it end here. Take one lesson from today and put it into action before the sun sets. Because a single decision made today can completely change the direction of your tomorrow. Your future is calling. Answer it with courage. And remember, the greatest chapter of your life doesn't begin when everything becomes easy. It begins the moment you decide that no matter what happens, you will keep moving forward.